Johnny from the Standstills, and obviously it looks like you're sitting at home and a well-deserved break after a few days on the road, eh?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, it's nice to be home, but I have no desire staying home. I would rather be on the road all the time. But it's part of this little run that we're doing through Ontario. Um, it's just kind of like when we have a day off here and there, it's like, yeah, we're close enough. Let's just go home,
Yeah, yeah, good
chill
for
out.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I presume these last couple of dates, I know you're playing in Kitchener, there was a couple other places, and I guess you're playing in Kingston tonight or tomorrow. Are these your first
Hmm.
dates since the pre-pandemic?
Yeah, we did something like in the summer in the East Coast. And then but yeah, this is our first time out in a couple years.
Yeah.
So it feels really good. Like, to be back on stage, but like just more than that, just to be a part of a rock show again, like because we both went out to see Royal Blood in Toronto, which was a fantastic show, but we just missed that in general. So just going out to shows and stuff, and obviously, like, we love to perform and play our music for everybody. So it's, yeah, man, it's just been it's like being who we um were before all of this stuff, but who it feels more like us to be doing that stuff, because like even before our record contract and getting the management and agents and stuff, like, we were booking shows independently because that's what we love to do. That's who we are, so it's like just getting back to that feels amazing.
And you were in a unique position in that most band members live apart. You and Renee live
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
that
cheap.
might,
It's cheaper that way.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a nice little partnership, and she's a lovely roommate, I must say.
Yeah,
but but yeah,
she smells a lot better than the other guys on the road.
yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah. I imagine there might have been some challenges there and advantages too in throughout the last year and a half, 2 years that you weren't able to get out and do things normally.
yeah, I think that it's we we've always been very supportive of each other. So I think when this wrench was thrown into the world, we really wanted to we were there for each other and really supported each other, and continued to do what we love to do on the other side of the music stuff, which is write and record, and then just take care of each other, like be there for each other during all of this craziness. And so yeah, I mean, the challenges were probably just that we'd get a little stir crazy, and just wanting to get out and stuff. But during that time, Renee was taking a horticulture course. So we were spending a lot of time in the woods, and doing like all finding, like, she was showing me all of the different things I had no idea about, like mycelium in the ground with like mushrooms and all. So it was like this massive crash course of Mother Nature. And so I think that was the initial challenge, was just being stir crazy, but being able to go out into nature and spend time in the woods and stuff like that, that really relieved that sort of anxiousness to want to do something.
Now, is this something that she's had on the back burner for a while, or is it something she discovered when she was sitting twiddling her thumbs when things got quiet?
Well, I think that it's always been something she's been into, and both of us have been into. Like, whenever we spend time on the road, we try to um, just go around to different spots and discover what's out there in nature and stuff. So there's like this cool website thing that we like to go on, called Atlas Obscura, and you can like search your area, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff on the road, like that you can go out and see, like so we this is to dive into it deeper, as far as like getting into the science of things. uh she's always been interested in it. Like, she's always been growing things at home, and like vegetables and all that sort of stuff, and just like herbs, and because I love to eat. So, but she, but yeah, this was a real moment for her to dive into it even deeper because we have the time to, and I was spending so much time, like when I write, I get like really into my own world and my own zone, and we write together. But then there's times where I just need to spend time alone and just work on the craft alone, because of the relationship of being a guitar player and singer is two. I'm trying to connect the two in a really nice way to deliver the music or the message the way I think it can be best presented. And so with me spending a lot of time within the writing stuff in that zone, she had a lot of time to, she had a lot of time. So she took a horticulture course, which was incredible. Now she graduated, she has a diploma in
Good for her.
horticulture.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it was, we tried to keep really busy, like I think that like a lot of other people out there is just kind of taking a moment, taking a step back, like still doing what we love to do, but because we had so much extra time, we just like dove into other things. I guess we never really had as much time for her. It was horticulture.
Yeah. Well,
And
next time I see you guys, I'm going to have to get some tips because the last 2 summers we've had a community garden spot, and so we've
oh,
been enjoying that a lot. And this year we decided that we'll grow some seedlings. Didn't work out very well, so
well, she
I think
could,
I need
she
some
could help
tips.
you. She could absolutely help you with that. She's brilliant in that. Like she was on the honors role. It's like she crushed it. When she puts her mind to something, she really like does a phenomenal job, as like playing the drums.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. And
so
is there anything that interests you outside of music that you might have discovered in the last couple of years?
um, I I think what I dove into more was just developing as a writer. Like I always love to play and just like throw paint at the wall as a guitar player and like that sort of stuff. And I think what I wanted to do was just really fine tune everything as a writer. And because that's like Renee, as much as she's like she adds little things into the writing process, um, it's kind of always been more my position in the writing side of things, because when we first got together, I was writing all the songs and we were playing them together. So what I did actually was dove into that a lot more, but with other writers. So working with other writers is something that I've done a little bit in the past, but this time around I did it a lot more and just really tried to be a really great listener, and to discover how they sort of come around to the like. I find there's always this like end goal, which is like the final product or the final song and the final feeling or message or whatever it is, and everybody has this way of curving around to get there. So I found it very interesting to discover other people's ways of getting there, or how they look at a song and where they start in their process. So um, I what I did during the time was just developed more of the songwriting skills, but also learning from other people as much as I could.
I would imagine the people you collaborated with learned something from you as well.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think because in those relationships, it is give and take back and forth, and I think so because there's some stuff that some of the other writers are using, and which I have written, helped write certain songs for. So now they're releasing those songs and stuff together. So I like whatever the case is of working with other writers and stuff like that. Like it's sometimes it's never the mission just to be like, okay, this is going to be Standstills or this is going to be whatever. It's like, let's just write something and then kind of see where it goes. And then as it develops, be like, okay, this is definitely more in your vein. So let's focus it that in your vein, and let's try to really fine tune what you kind of like your craft is, or how it speaks to your fans and that sort of stuff. And but yeah, it's and then sometimes it's like very specific, like this artist needs a song, wants to write about this, and it's like, okay, let's go for it.
Mhm.
It's
Do you want to tell me about some of the people that you've worked with in the last little while?
I worked with Neil a lot, actually, from 3 Days Grace. So
Right.
he helped produce, or he was the producer for our new album. Like, we just have a really good working relationship. And so in the past, Neil and I and Renee, we all wrote the song Wild together, which was a single off of Badlands.
Mhm.
And we wrote that in like a day. And it just like we wrote that with Neil in like a day, and then just took it and developed it further to what what you hear on the album. But that was such a good experience, and it was so incredibly productive. But and it just never felt forced. It felt so organic and like just very real to what speaks to the way that we speak in music, or our voice in our band and music and stuff. So it's working with him on this new album just felt like a no-brainer. Like, it was kind of like I when we were doing so sometimes we'll just have some fun and do some demo stuff together, and I'll show him, like, the stuff that Renee and I are working on, some demo stuff, and we'll just sort of like kind of I'll pop over to his place, and we'll throw down, sort of like clean up a demo track, and just like throw some big drums. Like, so he's got all this stuff, more production stuff at his place than we do here. And so he'll like make it sound really big as a demo, where it almost sounds like a finished copy. And he did that so well. I'm just like, and he was working with Howard Benson, who's a really great producer, one of the biggest in the US, actually. He's just like, this guy's produced some of the biggest rock albums. And so Neil and Howard have a relationship, or a new business together called Judge and Jury. And so because Neil's worked so close with other producers, he has this really great producer mind and outlook on the songs and stuff. And I was seeing that the whole time, like we're like having fun and working on songs, or the stuff that we've done in the past. And it's just like, I saw the opportunity. I'm an opportunist, so I saw the opportunity, and I was like, I was talking with Renee. I was like, we should get Neil to produce this. Like, he's absolutely, like, he could crush it. He does such a good job on the on demo stuff that we've done with him in the past. He's like, he fine tunes everything in such a subtle way, but and he's very fun to work with. Like, it's just like, I think that's a huge part too. It's like, we can't take ourselves too seriously sometimes, otherwise everything will just sound forced. And then to us, that's not our brand of rock and roll. We're not this like forced thing. It's like, there still needs to be this element of like, we're enjoying ourselves as we're making all that stuff, and that's going to go into the music, and that's going to be what's recorded, and that's going to be like, that's what we're putting out to the world. So we when we got the opportunity to work, or to see that he obviously has more time as well on his hands, he's doing 3 Days Grace stuff and some other projects with Howard. I just asked him, like, what do you feel like, or would you entertain the idea of producing this, our next album? And he came back and he was like, I would absolutely love it. And then, so we started to do we started to work on it together. So we had all these demos that we did in the past. We were kind of like, okay, check these out. And so he was like listening to all the material that we had, and he'd be like, this one's like, yeah, that one's a smash. Like, he's like, all we got to do is just throw some little like fine tune things in there. Like, maybe just change that one lyric here, or like, like, and then we started that process. And then so he actually introduced me to a great writer, Ted Brunner, who's worked on stuff in the past. So he worked on a lot of big rock songs. I don't know how much I can reveal, because some of that stuff, like some of the artists don't like to let other people to know that they've worked or wrote with other people. They want to just pretend like they've done everything themselves. But he's worked on some humongous rock songs that we know that have been in Canada, like #1s and stuff. And he's also done a bunch of stuff in the US for pop acts, and like #1 pop songs in the US and stuff. But he was so much like us. Like he's just this dude and who like lives in Colorado in the mountains, and like he's like out in nature, and we're talking about like so I got to do some Zoom stuff with him, and we worked on a few things together, and he, we would just talk about like the stuff that Renee has been working on, like with the horticulture stuff, and kind of like, because I think that's a huge part of songwriting, is you really want to get to know each other more, so we can, as the process continues, or we start to talk about music, we're very on the level, and the conversation is like, it's there already. We're not discovering each other through the writing process as much. We just know each other, and we know that, and now we're just working on painting up the songs. And so yeah, we had there's a new song on our album that is sort of like this song that we worked on with Ted, and he, so we did like this, it was a collaboration with Ted, Renee and I, and then Neil and stuff, and it was kind of this sort of team effort for this song, which was a ton of fun, because it was so by the end of it, by the end product, it was just like, we were listening to it and we're like, this song is just so much fun, and it really spoke to the whole process of writing with Ted, and then and also working with Neil. And so that was another writer during this process, but I got to know him a lot more, and learned a lot from him. Like, it's interesting that sometimes like the way some songwriters, it's like it takes them so long to get to something, or it's so serious. And sometimes that can be really painful, like a painful process.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're having a really good time, and the songs are just kind of like, they just happen. And then it's just like a reflection of like, that's how easy it can be if you keep your eye on the ball, but also be a great listener as well, and leave the ego at the door. Like, it's like, at the end of all of it, what you're really trying to do is make something special for everybody else as well, and not just for yourself.
Yeah, tell me what it was like for Renee to work with another drummer as a producer, and I wonder what the experience was like for Neil as well.
I can only speak to what I witnessed, and the conversations that we had, but they worked so well together. Like there was this mutual respect, and which was really incredible, because Neil he's on such a high level of the music industry, and he's just like this world-class drummer. And he had so much respect for Renee's playing and her ability and her technique and all this stuff. So that mutual respect was just like, they worked so well. And like, even getting the sounds in the studio and stuff, like Renee was bringing a lot of boutique-y stuff that we've used in the past. And Neil just loved it and wanted to use it for more of the other projects he was working on and stuff like that. And just like discovered this new snare. Like, we had this like 1920 snare drum that we've used in the past from TRS, which is the company that built Renee's kit. And so there was a really, the communication and the conversation was really, it was really productive in a way that like, for me is, I never want to step on the drums too much, you know, but I just know like where certain pockets or openings should be. Like, it's like, we don't want to crowd certain sections. And, but at times it's like this, we should really let loose, like really go for it during this section. And I think that Neil was really great at that as well, in that perspective. And with Renee, she was bringing all this material, or all this like the certain grooves and stuff to the table, and that was something that Neil had a lot of respect for, because she was swinging her beats more, you know. And I think that in some of the harder stuff in 3 Days Grace, it's very like on point, very like, it's like banging like at certain points, but it's Renee swings it a little bit more. So he loved that. And I think that like, so when they were working together, just like, because Neil had his hands in a lot of the engineering as well. So during that engineering and stuff, he would say like, okay, let's try this more straight, just so he can hear, like, we're going to try this more straight, less swing. And then, so Renee was always like, yeah, okay, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. We'd always be open to try anything. And then we'd sit and we talk about it and listen to it. Be like, is it better? Is it not? Like, it's fun to look at or try different things in songs. So he was like, let's try this section more straight. So we try it more straight. And then Renee would come into the studio, and we'd listen to it, and then we'd just be like, no, we got to bring that swing back. But it's good that we went through that process, you know. And I think that was a real reflection of the mutual respect in the room between the two, working together, and which I thought was great. It's like, we should get more drummers in here.
Well, speaking of trying new things, you've always been a two-piece, and now you're on the road with a bass player, which I think is really cool. Now you're a power trio instead of a power duo. What did you need? Did you need more space to work? And did he play on the album?
He played on the album.
Great.
And I think it just, for us, it felt like the right time. Like, it was just, in the past, like it's kind of like, I always describe the music industry kind of like, at least from our perspective and how we've come up through the industry, it's kind of like the Wild West, which is why we use a lot of the imagery and stuff like that, and the sort of lyrical content, because it feels like that a lot of the time, where it's like, sometimes you just don't have any time to take a step back, and you just got to keep guns blazing and just keep going and going. And I think that a part of that, being a two-piece, is that we knew that was a really sharp tool, like us as a duo. And so what we were doing constantly, we were just developing as the two-piece, never taking a step back, because that was our thing. And once we've established that, that was just where all our focus was, and that was our direction. And with the time that we had in the past couple of years, we wanted to do things differently. First we took a step back, or took the scope back, and really looked at everything and what we were doing, and sort of like went through our material and what we've accomplished in the past and whatnot. And then we thought, like, this feels like the right time to really do everything, take everything to the next level, and push ourselves as much as possible. And let's try the bass player thing, which it's nothing that we've ever been against. It's just that we've always been a two-piece. So that's like, we were doing we were developing rock songs that way, and which had a lot to do with covering the low end with octave pedals and stuff within the guitar. But this time around, with all the time that we had, and just talking with Neil too, and Neil was on board. He's like, you should give it a shot. Like, you know, like when we were doing the demo stuff, we'd always throw bass stuff down, like in the on the root notes, just to fill stuff out, because the octave pedal, sometimes it gets a little warbly. It's like the way I like to describe it in the recordings. So we sent a song out, like a demo out, to a bunch of guys, and we were just looking for somebody to come in to the studio and maybe throw down some root notes and stuff like that. We weren't sure where we were going to take it yet, but we just knew that we should keep an open mind to it. And I think that is extremely important, like when writing, and keeping an open mind, because you want the material and the songs to be the best they can be. And I think if you close your mind to that, and it's like, no, this is what we are, this is exactly what we have to do, then you're really not, you're not putting the song first, you're putting yourself first. Yeah. And that's not the right thing to do when it comes to like, yes. And then that's when you run into writing really bad songs. Yeah. But so we sent this stuff out there to a bunch of guys, and we got a bunch of stuff back from bass players and whatnot. And when we heard Chuck's stuff, we're just like, this is amazing. Like, this guy is just like, he's adding this third voice to the song that we've never heard before. Like, and it's incredible when you have a bass player do that to the material, because it's a reminder of how a bass player fits into a band, and when it's the right fit, or when the right sound, the right bass line comes into the song, which is a massive part of rock and roll, and which we've never like been or like not a fan of or whatever. Like, we've always loved bass guitar players and bass lines and stuff like that. It's just, we did things differently as a two-piece. But so when he brought the third voice in such a different way, we fell in love with it. And we're like, he's got to be the guy to come in and do it. And we just let him do his thing. We didn't try to control what he was playing. We just we let him listen to the songs and let him get just soak it up and have his own sort of interpretation of his voice on the album as a bass player. And the only thing we would ever say is if it felt like he could just do a little bit more, we just be like, just go for it a little further, dig a little deeper. And but it was never play here, take that out, it was just just dig deeper. Let's pull some more out of you and see what you can come up with. And
well, that's wonderful. You've, after 2 years, you've come out with Guns A-Blazing, and the new single is doing great guns. So it's Wednesday, May 18th at the Phoenix Concert Theater with Saint Sonia. And I presume a whole bunch of days through the summer, and then across Canada with 3 Days Grace in the fall. So busy times ahead for Standstills.
Yeah, it feels good. And we're getting back into the US. We have our label's part of the US and stuff now, and we just we got an agent recently and stuff, so there's a lot of focus down there, but we still want to do a lot in Canada, and get back out and show or play all this new material to and show everybody the evolution of us and celebrate the evolution of us with all these new songs and stuff, and get back to rocking out and having fun. You know what I mean?
Well, can't wait to get out to see you again. I'm especially excited to see the new lineup. And please give Renee my best wishes. And Johnny Absolutely. From the Standstills, thank you so much for joining us in the Rock Zoom room. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers,
Thanks.
guys.